the project, the resource allocation system. So you already have read it again, right? After the class, have you? Yeah, you read it multiple times. Probably you may missed very tiny information on the first read. Then you need to read it again, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times to make it clear that what are the requirement. I'm just telling you what are the required things that you need to learn for this project. Statements that yet not covered, expression yet not covered, basic data types I have covered some of them, integer, float. I'm going to discuss the string in this week as well. How you can convert string to an integer or float, you already have done those things for the lab assignment. Keyboard input, like the input function, printing to the console, like the print function. Snake case, camel case is the naming convention of a variable. Round function, this is the built-in function. F string is not yet covered, and the 2 decimal point, how you already have done a lab with the F string, but this needs to be covered in this week, the F string. So these are the today's class. The next class I'll be covering F string and 2 decimal point. I already have discussed the snake case, round, and all of those things. Okay. Any question? Yes.
I saw that snake case was like listed as a requirement in a couple of descriptions. Is that true?
So if it is like snake case, so snake case and camel case are fine. Like you need to follow either one.
I just saw that it only listed snake case.
Yeah, that was an honest mistake actually. It could be either snake case or camel case.
But for the final project this semester.
Yeah, the final project will be snake case.
Okay.
I'll let you know when it's the final project time. Any other question? No? That means, okay. So as I told you, read the specification again and again. You may miss very tiny information on the first read. So you need to extract the input format, extract the output format. Even if the answers are correct, it needs to be formatted exactly. So for an example, if your answer is like 159.6 and it is expecting 159.60, those two are same, but formatting wise, they are not same. If I'm giving you money to create a project, I'm expecting you to create this type of thing and you're creating this one, then probably I'll not give you the money, right? Yes.
Because the 0.6 without the 0 could imply that you rounded to 0.6 when there's additional numbers, right?
Yes, it can be, but not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So you need to write those 2 decimal places using the F string. I'll let you know. So that's why I'm forcing you to like print the exact formatting. If you go to the project specification, it is mentioned there, like exactly the same formatting, 2 decimal place. If it is 1 decimal point, then you need to write the 2 decimal place. Like 159 and 159.00 are same, but I told you to write the up to 2 decimal point. That means I'm expecting this one. You need to write this way, 159.00, not 159. Does that make sense? So even if you're writing 159, you're not getting the point because you're not following the rubric. The rubric mentioned you need to format the output with 2 decimal points using F string. That is the requirement. If you go to the project description, let me go to the project description. So in the rubric it mentioned you need to use the F string for unit should be formatted to 2 decimal places for display. Even if your value is 159 for display, you need to use the F string up to 2 decimal points. If your answer is 159, probably you will not get that 5 points. To secure the 5 points, you need to use the F string and 2 decimal points display. Does that make sense? That means these are the contract actually. If I'm giving you a project, these are the contract. You need to follow each of the rubric. If you follow each of the rubric, then you can secure the 100 points. If you miss any of them, then probably you miss those points. Like I mentioned, how many citizens should be exactly the same. It's because I'm paying you the money for this project, right? Money means like here the points. If you're just writing how much citizen, for example, is not right here in this context. Even if with this column, that's why I mentioned run exactly. So the reason is like, so whenever you are following this rubric, if you're in a bigger project, you are obliged to follow those things. You can successfully finish those things with this particular rubric. That is the purpose. Even if it is like a small point, it can save your job later on. Recently, they are like firing a lot. For example, like Amazon, they are firing 30,000 employees. They already have fired 16,000 last year. 14,000 are on the way. So probably they're checking those things like, well, you have missed these things. That's why you're fired. They need to learn those things from here. Okay. Instead of firing, you're deducting some point here. Okay. So rounding and F-string for the display, clean code. I'll tell you what is the clean code later, not today. Then use the variable naming rule. You remember what's the variable naming rule? It should be meaningful, this is the first thing. Then do not use the later, the first point. It should be the character. If it is the multiple words, you can use the underscore in between the words or use the camel case. Like capitalize the second word and make all together. And it is due Friday at 11:59. This is the official deadline. I cannot like assign anything on the weekday, the weekends. That's why it is not Sunday midnight. It is Friday midnight. But unofficially, you can submit it up to Sunday midnight. Okay. Any questions? That means, so there's the problem solving steps that we have discussed in the last class. You need to understand the problem, design the problem, then implement, test, and revisit. So we're on the first place, right? You all agree? Do you have any question on that? Well, you need to read it again and again. You may miss some tiny points. You read it again. But at least you understand the basic, right? What you need to do. Now, the second part is design. What's in the design part? You need to follow the design worksheet, right? That I have already discussed last class. What is the program supposed to do? What is the inputs and outputs, including name and data type? How my program going to work? What concept can I use for this class? What is the pseudocode? And you need to write the 3 test cases. So the task at hand are those, right? What are the inputs? There is the number or the crew number,
The amount of
and the amount of food or the unit, right? Those are the inputs. Now, what is the type of the input? Integer? Anything?
When you use the input function, doesn't it always store it as a string unless you say otherwise?
Yes, so input function always returns string. So this is the functionality of the input function. Whenever you are using a function like a built-in function, you need to know what it returns. What is the type it is returning? So input function by default, it returns a string. Even if it is an integer value or a float value, it returns a string. Now, you are expecting, or so you'd like to work with an integer value, right? That means you need to convert it, type conversion. So from string to integer, you need to convert to an integer. Does that make sense? So we cannot use float here. Float can be used, but we don't need to. Why? A person cannot be float, right? The unit value cannot be fractional, but float can work here. So either float or integer. So integer is the best one. The second one is the unit. I have mentioned that the unit cannot be fractional. Again, you don't need to use the float here. You can use the integer. But float can work. Okay. So you know the name and the data type for the input, right? Now what's the output? Output requires you to print the tops, mirrors, and cruise share, right? But they are fractional. That means those types are what? A float type, not a string type. Now the formatting. Formatting is the later part. You need to calculate it first. Then whenever it comes to the formatting, we'll use the F string to format it. Any question about the input and output process here? No? Okay. What is the third part? Processing. How you can convert an input to an output. This is the processing, right? Then it comes like what concept you can use from your class. What concept? Anyone? Well, first thing is like input function, right? Then the type conversion. Then the calculation, but the calculation consists of expression statement. I'll go through the expression statement later. Then whenever you have the value, you need to format it, right? That means F string or rounding it to a 2 decimal places. What else? Those are the main concept, right? Maybe I have missed one or two, but those are the, again, the variable naming rule, variable convention, snake case or camel case. Naming rules like you should be meaningful name. You don't need to write A and B as a variable name, X and Y, Z as a variable name. It should be meaningful, like a share or unit can be meaningful name. Some of you have used those variable names in the lab assignments like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, but I haven't detected any point. It's because you don't know what is a meaningful thing before that assignment. But the next week, if you're using ABC as a variable name, probably I'll detect some point. For the part of clean code, those are not clean code. What does mean by clean code? I don't understand what is mean by A, right? So if you're providing me that code and I would like to utilize that code later on, I need to know what is mean by the A. Probably you need to write a comment that makes sense, but still variable A doesn't make any sense. Instead of writing a comment, if you're writing like, well, this is operand 1, this is operand 2, that make more sense, right? If you're adding two numbers. Does that make sense? Now the steps. What are the steps? As I told you, I will solve the problem algorithmically. That means I need to know the steps, right? So what's the first step?
Understand.
Understand? Yes, definitely understand. But I'm going to the steps means like algorithmic steps. You already have understand. This is the first part done. Now we're at the steps of design part. Yeah. So what's the first part?
Input.
Input, right? What are the inputs? Citizen and units, right? Okay. So I'm starting here. Then input, I'm writing a flowchart. Those are the inputs. Then I know there is an output here. There is an output here, or outputs, and then the end, right? So this is the basic flowchart of any problem solving like assignment or any problem. Start, input, output, and end. In between input and output, we need to write the steps, process, algorithm, right? Now, what are the steps? Let me write those things in step one. What's the step one?
You just said it's an other than Mira and Top, reshares.
This one, right? Okay. So for example, my first input crew number is 20 and units is 1000, right? What's the first step? Give 3 units to all of the crew except Mira and Top. So Mira and Top counts 2. That means we need to deduct 2 from the total crew number and give 3 units to all of them, right? So instead of writing, I'm doing the calculation. So 20 minus 2, whatever the number, I don't know whether it's 20 or 10 or whatever the number. Since my input is 20, I'm writing 20. So 20 minus 2 multiply 3, right? So what is the number? 18 multiplied 3, 54, right? What's the remaining? 1000 minus 54, so 946, right? This is the first step. What's the second step? So every time I need to calculate the remaining part. That's because whenever I'm doing any operation, I'm doing the operation on top of the remaining part, right? So Mira, the high-ranking captain, received 30% of the remaining supply. That means 30% of 945. 946 multiply 13%. So 13% is like 13 divided by 100, right? What is the value? Anyone? Just calculate. Or you can write here like 0.13. What's the number?
122.98.
122.98. Then
That's all I
that's
get.
all. Okay. Okay. So if it is like 3 points, you need to round it up to 2 decimal points. So for example, if it is like 985, then you need to round it to 2 decimal points like 99. But since we have 2 points, we don't need to. Okay. Now what's the third step? Third step is the second in command, then receive. Yes.
We need to tell it to minus the amount she got from the remaining supply first, right?
Yes, that's true. We need to calculate the remaining part here. Remaining is like previously 946 minus 122.98. Again, what's the number?
823.02.
823.
Yeah.
0.02.
Yep.
Okay. Now step 3. So Mira Top will get 11% of what's the remaining part, right? So 823.02 multiply 0.11. What's the number again? It's like a class participation, so you need to calculate
90.53.
90.53. That's all.
2.
22. So
Yeah.
22 doesn't count. Okay. Now what's the remaining again? 823.02 minus 90.53. What's the value other than she? No one is interested to calculate those things? What's the value?
733.30.
733.39.
39.
Then?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. So we're down at the step 4, step 3. Step 4. The rest is evenly split among all crew members, including Mida and Tov. All crew means 20, not the 18. Right? That means 39 divided by 20. What is the value? It should be 136, something like that. See the answer. It is 36.62, right? Okay. Are you done? Mostly. That's because we don't have any other steps here. We don't have any other steps just to calculate the output. What are the output? Mira, top, and crew. There's some tiny information that whenever you're calculating the media share, you need to round to 2 decimal places. Whenever you're calculating top share, round it. Crew share, round it. That means only those 3 places. Only those 3 places. 1, then 2, and sorry, not here. 2 and 3. So those are the 3 places that you need to use the round function. You don't need to use the round function throughout the code, just only 3 places. Whenever you're calculating top share, mirror share, and crew share. That's it for the purpose of round function. Do you know the round function? No? Okay. So the round function is the built-in function, just like input function. We already have learned the input function, right? What it does? The input function takes the user's input from the terminal and returns you as a string, right? The round function is a math function, but a built-in function, which actually round your value up to your decimal point, like whatever you're mentioning here. So there are like 2 things using comma. So if the value is like a val variable, my val value is like 135.939, not 3, more than 5, 969. Then if I'm using val2, it will return 135.97. If you're putting here 1, then it will return 136. If you're putting 3 here, then it will return 969. I don't know what is the value of that one, but it's 969. This is how the round function works. So you need to use the round function on those 3 places. Does that make sense? Any question? Yes.
We have to round it then, or can we do all the calculations and then round it when we do our output?
No, whenever you're doing this calculation at that place. So what are the values? 122.98, right? Then you use the round function here. That means this is the value. Inside the value, you can put the whole thing. Same thing for here. Same thing for here. So round, comma 2. It will return the rounded value. Instead, you can put those value in a variable like a val or whatever the value. Then you can put that variable here. Both are okay. Okay. So we're not done yet. We need to calculate. We need to print the output. So what are the outputs? The outputs are top share, mirror share, and crew share. This is the challenging part. Probably you have missed those things. Okay. From my past experience, My students miss those information. The first thing is like, initially you are giving 3 units to all of the crew, right? Means crew means excluding Mira and Toph, right? That means we need to add 3 points here. So we have 36.62. Don't forget to add those 3 points that you already have given the very first point. That means the value will be 39.62, right? Same thing for the top. What's the top share? The top is the second part, right? Mira is the first. So Mira's part is 122.98. But here we have split it evenly among all crew. Here, Mira and top there, right? That means this portion is also Mira's part and top's part. That means you need to add those two numbers with those two. That means 122.98 plus 36.62. Same thing for here. 90.53 is the top share, then add 36.62. Then you will find those information like the value 159.62, 127.15. I think this will add 159.62. What's the next one? 127.17. Those are the three values. That means we have solved this problem algorithmically. You need to write the code by following those steps. So here's the steps, right? Any question? Yes.
What is the 54? So we did the 18 times the 3 for each of them.
Here. So 54 is like, yeah, 18 times 3. That means initially we are giving 3 units to all of the crew except Mira and Top. That means they are getting 54 units. So from the total, I'm deducting those points.
Okay, so they're each getting 54 units.
No, each getting 3 units.
3 units.
That means 18 crew get togetherly 54 units.
Okay.
But it can be varied. If it is not 20, it can be varied. Yes.
Just to be clear, on our assignment, are we using those numbers you have up there, like 20 and 1,000, or are we just making it up?
So 20 and 1,000 are the test run. So that's what I have mentioned here. So for the rubric, the first one, results of the various amount to be calculated correctly to decimal places. The program correctly for different numbers of crew and units, not just the example run. Those are the example run. You need to create 3 more test cases. Now the second part comes like how you can create the test cases. Okay, I'll show you how you can create a test case. Are you familiar with Excel, Microsoft Excel? Okay. It's better to use an Excel. So here I'm writing 2 numbers, crew 20, units 1,000, right? What's the step 1? Step 1 is giving 3 points to all of the crew, right? So I'm writing equal in the unit multiply 3, right? Now what's the remaining? Rem 1, I'm just writing here. Equal 1,000 minus this amount and 40. It should be minus 3, right? Because Mira and Top are not included.
2, right? That's 2.
2. Yes, you're right. 2. So this is the first step. Now what's the step 2? Step 2 is Mira getting 13% of this amount. Now what's the remaining here? Remaining is whatever we have minus what Mira got, right? Now the step 3, top got 11% of this amount. Now what's the remaining? Remaining is this amount minus what top got. Now the step 4. So everyone will get. So I need to like split that amount evenly to all crew. Now what is the output? Mira, Top, and crew, right? So Mira will get, what's the Mira's amount? This amount? No. This amount, right? 5. All crew share. Then Top will get this amount plus crew amount, and this is the crew amount plus they'll get 3 points. Right? Now instead of 20 and 1000, if I put here a different number, like 10 and 500, you'll have a new test case. Those are the values. If you're putting 10 and 500 on your code, if it is returning those values, that means your code is correct. You can generate another test case here. 500, too much. Maybe 100 and 5000. This is the second test case. It could be anything, right? You can write here like 39 unit is like 500. This can be a third test case. So right now, so we are creating some sure shot test cases. Like there is no edge cases here. Like a crew can be negative. You need to handle it. You need to create a test case like that, but later on, not this project, not for this project. For this project, we're assuming crew and unit are valid numbers. We don't need to check them. But for the later project, we need to check them, whether they are negative number, they are not fractional, like crew cannot be fractional, right? That means 39.5 can work here, but not in practical, right? But for this project, you don't need to worry about these things. Given that the crew and unit are valid numbers. Like this is an invalid number, like 20 crew and units is 10. You're getting negative units here. This is an invalid. But for this project, don't worry about these things. Okay.
Same thing if the crew is 2, like if the crew
Yeah.
is 1,
Yeah.
there's not enough in here.
Yeah. But later we will check those things for the later projects. Any question about the test cases? So this is how you can generate the test cases, no? Yes. So I already have given some unknown value here. So this is the test run. So this is the test run that is I already given this example in the specification, but there's some unknown data, like an example, 49,39481. Let me try 49,39481. 49,39481. 37, 5735, 4386. 5735, 4386. That means it's good. This is our test case. We can generate the test cases from those Excel file. I can share this Excel file with you so that you can generate the test cases. But from next project, you need to create those type of Excel file or you need to generate some of the test cases. But before writing your original code, you need to write those test cases first. That's because this is important. Whenever you run your code, make sure those test cases runs. I found some of your submission from the lab assignments and PS project, PS labs, that you haven't run your code. I cannot run your code. Maybe there's some errors. So make sure when you submit your code, you run it on your computer. If you can run it without any error, then only then you can submit it. Okay, just to make sure. And this is true for the project, always true. Like whenever you're submitting any work in the project folder, make sure it runs on your own computer. Even if with the like test run. Like if it is not running with the other test cases, that is fine, but at least it should run with the example run. This is what I mean about the example run. Example run is like the given input output in the project or the assignment specification. Okay. Any question? Is it too much for the second week? I think you already have done the PS lab, so probably you were aware of what you were doing. And PS2 is the another part. So if you are merging project like the PS1 and PS2, that is basically your project. Okay. Any question about the project? That means we are on the design part, right? So in the problem solving steps, now we are on the design part. We know how to do that, right? You can write those things in pen and pencil, pen and paper, or you can draw a flowchart. Either one is fine. And then make sure everything runs okay, writing the test cases, only then you start writing the code. This is the third part of your problem. If you're not sure about the project understanding part, like what you need to do, you can read it. This is the important thing. You need to read multiple times. Don't worry. Even if you are working in an industry, you need to read the specification more than 50 times. Okay. And whenever you're done with the implementation, then it comes the testing and revisiting your code, like rewriting your code, how you can rewrite your code. But rewriting code is not the part of project one. Probably project two, we will be rewriting our code. First, we'll write our scratch code. Then we will rewrite our code with different concepts that we have learned, like function, loops, and other techniques. But for the testing that I have mentioned, before submitting your code, test it. Test on your own computer. This is important. Okay. Okay, I will stop the project discussion now, but again, in the next class, I'll start discussing the project again. So if you have any question before now in the next class, you can ask me in the next class. But you need to read it carefully again and again. If you are not reading, then you may not have any question. Okay, I'm expecting some question from you in the next class. That means you must read it. Okay. So